か言われてたんですよ。これはね、不思議なことにみんな一致したんです。全ての集合者が同じ答えをしたんですよ。数字だったんです。数字12345っていきなり皆さんね言い出すんです。意味は分からなかった。これはね、朝の点呼なんです。朝の点呼の際に一列にみんな並ばされて、つまりちゃんと人間が揃ってるかどうか、脱走した人間がいないかどうか。
Let me focus on two of the powders, or two of the ytterbium titanate samples that were made at McMaster University. One of them is the single crystal that I've been telling you about. This was grown by the floating zone method. And the other is a powder sample, which was never grown as a single crystal. So this is purely solid state, never been melted. And as you can see here, this is a log scale. There's quite a big difference between these two curves. But I think it's perhaps relevant to show this on a linear scale. We're used to looking at it as a log scale, but on a linear scale, you can see the powder is several orders of magnitude higher in the peak sharpness and therefore the height of the peak. And so I don't think you could argue that this is a second order phase transition. This is definitely first order, and also I don't think you could argue that they have the same purity, the two samples. And another thing that's interesting is that although to some extent the height of this peak depends on how you measure it, so what type of specific heat measurement you do, the single crystals have only ever reached, say, about 8 joules per Kelvin per mole. And this is, quite a big difference between the powders and the crystals. So what causes this difference was the question that we had. And in order to address this, we actually grew a single crystal and then crushed it up. And we crushed it up so that we could compare it to a powder sample that had never been grown as a single crystal. And then undertook a fairly careful crystallography study in which we compared the diffraction patterns at 15 Kelvin, so this is in a non-magnetic state, between the two samples. And what we were able to conclude is that the powder sample, which had never been grown as a crystal, has a 0% stuffing, and the single crystals that have been crushed up have about 2.3% stuffing. Okay, what is stuffing? Stuffing is you take an ytterbium ion, an extra one, and put it on the titanium 4+ sublattice, which is supposed to be non-magnetic. So for those of you familiar with Herbert-Smithite, this is sort of similar to the case with Herbert-Smithite, where you have extra magnetic ions. And you're not disrupting the connectivity of the actual particle lattice. So we don't have titanium going back onto the ytterbium site. We only have ytterbium going on to the titanium site. And this is one of the ways that you can have disorder in these floating zone crystals. So how you can determine that you have the stuffing is by looking very carefully at certain relative peak heights. So here, the stoichiometric powder, you have a sort of a lower 2 peak compared to a 311 peak. And then in the crushed single crystal, you see that these peak intensities are almost equal. So that among other peaks in this pattern, tell you sort of about the level of stuffing in your sample. So the question is, in the stoichiometric samples, which are the powder samples, what is the ground state, or what are the magnetic ground state properties? Okay, so that's what the point of this talk is. I think I have enough time. Okay, so we did 2 different neutron scattering measurements on the exact same stoichiometric powder that I just showed you the diffraction from. And in order to make sure that the powder gets cold below 1 Kelvin, it's important to take certain measures. And one of them is you use a copper can, and you want to fill it with about 10 atmospheres of helium gas at room temperature. This allows, once the helium goes through a superfluid transition, it allows the superfluid helium to coat the frame.
国が売却を進めていた仙台空港の運営陣は、東京急行電鉄と前田建設工業、トヨタ通商などで構成する企業連合が優先交渉権を獲得しました。国土交通省は選定の理由として LCC 格安航空会社向けの整備や商業施設が充実することなどを挙げています。国が管理する空港の民営化はこれが初めてで、来年6月末に運営が完全に移管される予定です。
政府の規制改革の柱と位置づけられていた改正労働者派遣法が衆議院本会議で自民公明両党などの賛成多数で可決・成立しました。これにより企業は期間の制限なしに派遣労働者を雇い続けることができるようになります。民主党など野党各党は不安定な派遣労働が広がると反対し、今の国会の焦点の一つでした。今月30日に施行されます。
安保法案を審議する参議院の特別委員会での対決日程が、政府・与党が当初目指していた16日から 17日にずれ込む可能性が高まりました。これは野党側が開催を求めていた地方公聴会について与党が譲歩し、来週16日に行うことが決まったためです。政府・与党は来週中の法案成立を目指していますが、野党側は内閣不信任決議案の川崎市の大型ショッピングセンター。4階にはナムコのアミューズメント施設がある。その一角には親子連れの行列、ベビーカーも行列、さらに客が脱いだ靴の山。お目当てはゲームセンターではなく、なんと砂場だ。砂遊びに親も子供も夢中だ。ナムコが運営する遊びパーク。0歳から8歳までの子供専用の屋内砂場だ。日曜日には順番待ちの行列が絶えない。入場から10分ごとにお一人様170円。親子で1時間使うと1500円を超える価格。それでも
安全な砂場っていうか、砂も綺麗ですし、お金払ってる。
人気の秘密はさらに400度の加熱処理を施し、砂ぼこりを舞いにくくした。こんな風に服を着たまま体いっぱいに